What's heaven?
It's a peaceful place in the sky.
Are you going to heaven?
No. You gotta be a good person to go to heaven.
Then we're the same. We can't go to heaven because you're not good. And I'm not a person. They're coming to get me.
I'm like a bodyguard. I'm getting you out of this.
Take care of her.
I promise. Seatbelts.
Oh, what a beautiful thing. Hello and welcome to the Periodic Table of Awesome. My name is Dion, and today I'm joined by Peter. Hello, Peter.
Hello, Dion.
How you going?
It's so weird and lonely with just two of us.
Yeah, I know, not weird and lonely. I feel I feel great. It's like a duo movie, you know. Here you are, my erstwhile protector, and here I am, just the idiot AI child. It's going on, but we're not alone. We have the chat as well. Hello, chat. Hello, everyone.
Hello,
in the chat.
chat.
Yes, unfortunately, Quinny has come down with a big bout of being Quinny tonight, and Jill is recovering from too much of a good time. I mean, working over the
I feel like
weekend,
that makes it sound worse than it is.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Unfortunately, everyone can wish Quinny a speedy recovery for his flu thing. I don't know, whatever it is. But he would be here. He was literally he was crawling towards the computer because he had a lot of opinions to say about this. And also he missed the One Piece one as well. So he'll be back. He'll be back next time for spooky season. He's just resting up for spooky season. He'll return from the grave.
And Jill would never miss spooky season.
No, Jill is the most prepared of all of us for the spooky season movies. She knows exactly what's going on. Peter, how are you going for next week's show?
I, unlike Jill, have not been watching all of the horror movies on purpose.
Yep.
But I'll have something to talk about.
You'll have something to talk about. But what are we going to talk about tonight?
The Creator.
The Creator. Yes, that's right. The newest science fiction horror movie from Gareht Edwards. Does everyone know Gareht Edwards? Do I have to go into this? Who is Gareht Edwards?
Let's go into who is Gareht Edwards. Let's give information like we know things.
What do you mean? You know, I can't remember any good movie that Gareht Edwards has done. He's a new first-time director. I'm guessing that... I'm joking completely. Come on. Done Godzilla. Did he get famous, I think, for the reboot of Godzilla?
I mean, that is one of the things.
Yeah.
I don't know what his first kind of breakout film was, actually.
Monsters, which was an amazing film shot around the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. And, you know, if he just went in there with a camera and shot a lot of destruction, places that were destroyed and empty, and then put CGI monsters in them and created a cool story about it. I was like, that was kind of great. And also it was a nice story. But yeah, then got to do Godzilla, you know. How do you go from monsters to Godzilla and then Star Wars? So he's doing all right.
Well, that is a trajectory.
Yes, definitely a trajectory. And, you know, it was Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which influenced, stylistically at least, the Andor series and reinvigorated a lot of people's 70s mustaches. as they all wanted to look like rebel pilots.
Is that when that mustache thing happened? Because, oh my
Yes.
God, stop.
It's great.
No upper lip hair without lower lip hair. No.
Excellent. Good to know. I'll make sure I'll never have a sans bearded mustache around you, Pete. That'd just be weird. What happens if I just have a mustache and no other hair? What if I
At
shaved
all?
my head?
I mean, that's a look.
Yeah. What if I had the reverse Hitler? Where I just shaved a little bit in the middle and then left the outsides.
Yep.
But what does that have to do with the creator? Nothing. Nothing at all.
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing at all. It's an interesting one, and now we get to see this one, which is, it feels a little bit like a Star Wars. Like everyone kind of was making this out to be like, oh, it's another film from the Star Wars universe, and it's like, it's not really. It's kind of more the Matrix adjacent, I would say, than Star Wars adjacent.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of things adjacent in my. I mean, it's kind of Apocalypse Now adjacent. If you're going to,
sure,
Apocalypse Now meets Blade Runner, basically.
I mean, look at these things. You've got Chappie, you've got Elysium, you've got a whole bunch of films that are like this kind of thing.
Well, and it's funny because all of the reviews have been incredibly positive, and most of them have said, that it's just this incredibly original thing, and I found myself disagreeing while watching.
Hang on a second. And that's fine. But I almost forgot, because I don't usually do this thing. Now we have to figure out what is the creator about.
Synopsizing.
A synopsizing thing, and because we don't have anyone here who does the usual synopsizing, I'm going to attempt this myself. Or should I just throw you under the bus, Peter? You can do it. I would like you to do this in a robot accent. No. What shit accent are you going to do?
So just my normal voice then.
Yeah, just act as though you're explaining very slowly to a 3-year-old what you want them to do, but you're trying to remain calm. Is that
basically how I read temp narration at work? So if I had a synopsis in front of me, I could do that.
No, it's okay.
I think that you might have one in front of you.
I think I do have one in front of me, but I need some synopsizing music. Is that what we're gonna do? Gonna do the
yeah.
Wait. Adsky's asked me to do the angry officer voice, and I'm like, how many angry officers are in this film? I could try the Ken Watanabe version, but that's just about talking in a thick Japanese accent. I'm not going to do that.
Hard no.
No. A hard no on those things, please. Yes, but I do need some music. Oh no, that's just something has corrupted the file, and now it's gotten into an absolutely distorted and robotic Claire de Lune. I thought this would be a nice Claire de Lune music. This is what it's like. Hello, robot from the future. Okay, that's it. Fuck it, I'm doing it this way. As future war between the human race and artificial intelligence rages on, ex-Special Forces agent Joshua is recruited to hunt down and kill the Creator, the elusive architect of advanced AI. The Creator has developed a mysterious weapon that has the power to end the war and all of mankind. That's a bit of a stretch. As Joshua and his elite team of elite operatives venture into enemy-occupied territory, they soon discover the world-ending weapon is actually an AI in the form of a young child. That's right, it's a morality tale. And also about asymmetric warfare.
It's, it's got a little bit of everything, doesn't it?
That was the weirdest music that I've ever had. There we go.
Yes. I actually can't hear the music on this end. So.
Yeah, I know. Everyone out there was getting it. It's like that was the as if you ran Claire de Lune through a shitty synthesizer and recorded it on a tape deck that was running out of battery while you played it back.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of maybe appropriate for this.
Yeah, kind of a little bit appropriate like that. But while we're streaming it out through Twitch, which is a new age technology, maybe, I don't know how it's like. I can't get any more metaphors in there. Oh, dear. It was the DJ Khaled. Oh, terrible. Anyway, yeah, the creator. It's about an AI robot child who has to get out, and someone was supposed to kill it or capture it, and then ends up becoming friends with it, and then getting it to the thing. But yeah, look, it had some cool ideas.
Yeah,
I feel like this thing on a story, like on a pre-production concept art level, was amazing.
and look, the end result of the character design and the AI, design and the VFX is pretty damn cool. Like it looks impressive. It is, a very kind of polished. I mean, I'm not like a picky VFX person. I thought it looked pretty cool. And it had this, very Blade Runner-esque aesthetic to it, which is like lovely to look at on screen. Bugs the hell out of me from a story point of view, but that's for another section. It was a pretty film to look at. I will definitely give it that. I think some of the performances were excellent as well, for those who were kind of given space to perform. But yeah, I don't know. I had I watched this last night in the cinema alone, or almost alone. There was one other person in there, which was quite nice. And I've had a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, you were like, I mean, you're doing something that is very rare that I've seen from you, Pete. Is you were actually texting us, messaging us during the movie, going, "Hey, this bit's happening, and I'm not happy with this bit." It's like, this is so unlike you, Peter. You don't pull your phone out. You usually give the film your full. Like, I would be the one you would expect that would just be like, "I'm gonna live tweet it," but no.
I was giving away like how I was feeling about it, because I generally only do that kind of thing if I'm starting to get pissed off. But and also, obviously, there were no other people in the cinema that I was
I just
interrupting with my phone.
It only took like 5 minutes before you started.
I got pissed off really early.
I think the message was like, "I can smell a fridging." And I just went, and I was like, "Oh no." Pete's gonna. I'm sorry to tell you, Pete. It suffers from the fridge problem. I think we need a new icon for that.
It's such an obvious fridge problem, and this is where it all just starts to fall apart for me. Like, just plot wise and so-called originality wise. I love Gemma Chan. I think that she is super cool, and I mean, if you get Gemma Chan, you kind of want to use her. So there's that. And
I mean, like, yeah, who have we got?
I mean, we're talking about something that literally happens in the first 5 minutes of the film, so this isn't spoiler. I will get into it deeper in spoiler territory, because we do, like, you've got to do spoilers to kind of pick that apart. One of my favorite things about this movie, I think it really kind of encapsulates, like, the three main female character archetypes. You've got the virtuous mother, the evil witch, and the helpless child. And that is it.
Yep. But then I would say that you've also got the three archetypes, well, actually, no, you've got a fourth one in there. Well, you talk which way? Yeah, okay, sorry, that's more of evil witch. That's kind of like two evil witches. On the other side, you've got the white knight rescue person, the older father figure / protector, and then what would you consider the rest of it? Like, then robots, which are very hard to get a lot of emotion out of, because you don't react to them the same way.
Well, yeah, I mean, these robots are interesting because they are designed, that the whole point of them is that you are supposed to, empathize deeply with them.
And I did to a certain extent. Like, there was occasionally there's like side AI characters who are robots have a robot face, and they're obviously portrayed by people in mocap, and they've just been superimposed out. So you kind of do get a good feeling occasionally from some of them. Like there's some of the AI bots that have the thing that I was like, oh, I'm sad about that one going, but was that the actual one that was there, or was this just another copy of that one? But you can't really tell. Yeah, it was very interesting and had it played with a lot of big concepts and ideas about personhood and AI that were, quite successfully, I think, thrown a bit into the background. In the sense, like it's kind of like, here's an established thing, like all of the complicated and the reasoning for it to get to where it is just there. Just accept it, and we don't need to delve into it and do a bunch of exposition dumping. You're just going to have to go with it, which I thought was kind of done really well. It was done through a lot of show not tell. Which I did like that. I did respect that with the audience. It's like, hey, it's there's two sides to the world now. You're either pro AI and trying to incorporate in a new system, or you're the American capitalist anti AI who is just going to unilaterally bomb things that it doesn't agree with.
And look, here's I think the thing about this movie for me, I really like sci-fi, as you know. I really don't like war films, as you know. I will generally avoid watching war films, particularly ones that are kind of based on real wars, because I just don't find the depiction of that kind of human atrocity entertaining. I find it kind of upsetting, weirdly. And I think that at its heart, this is a war film more than it's a sci-fi film. And this, at its core, I think, is where the wheels have come off for me in terms of my personal enjoyment of what's going on. I showed the trailer to my colleague this morning, who is a director and an animator, and she immediately, first time watching it, picked something that I hadn't picked up on, and that's that in the first trailer they released, they actually used footage from the explosion in Beirut as in one of the shots.
And they got into a lot of controversy over that one.
Not great. The film itself is very much designed to feel like a, alternate reality Vietnam War situation. There are a lot of shots of crying little, children just before the Americans come in and raise the place, essentially. And it's very, very kind of obvious that, we're kind of being emotionally led down this path of that horrendous, photography of the children in Vietnam and Cambodia. And it just, the entertainment wheels kind of fall off there a bit for me when it's, that that clear that that's what we're trying to do with this plot. Like, this is certainly making a statement about war, certainly making a statement about how one particular superpower conducts itself in war, and I'm not kind of against those statements, but there is also something that feels really exploitative, I guess, to me, about that aspect of this film, which I think was really kind of core to what it is. So that is, I think, when I guess contextualize the rest of my reaction to the film around that, if you will.
Well, that was one of the things, like, you were like talking about the Beirut explosion that was in there, and it was actually something that was raised as one of the controversial things. And during a Reddit AMA, like, someone did call out Gareht Edwards on that, and he was like, yeah, so that was a trailer where we used a placeholder VFX in it, and then the trailer got released and people hadn't picked it up, but it's not actually in the film. I took it out. Like, it's not actually going to go there. But yeah, also not good to do, I can understand the filmmaking process may have missed it, but you should probably have edited that out, really.
And should you have done it in the first place? Don't know.
Well, yeah, no.
You should have.
Yeah, maybe not. Or maybe just super it with, do not use this actual footage. We need to do something like this, but not this one. Please don't use this one. for the love of God, it's right here in the show notes. Don't release the trailer with this one in there. Thanks. Signed, Gareht.
So it's definitely doing that kind of like for all mankind expect fiction thing at the beginning where, you know, it gives you a lot of the context through news clips that are kind of reminiscent of, you know, the history that we understand, which I think is like, you know, was a really kind of nice way to set it up. And then kind of moving into this, like I said, kind of Blade Runner-y aesthetic, which is so cool to look at. But if you're already kind of not in suspension of disbelief mode, which you really need to be in for a sci-fi, I'm just like, I don't understand how you are in a universe where you have created AI and you know, robot technology so sophisticated that they have like feelings and you can put human faces on them, but you just never bothered with HD video or, you know, cellular phone technology or anything like that. Like Blade Runner aesthetic worked in Blade Runner because it was the 70s and, you know, that was, you know, the extent of the future that we could depict in the 70s.
Yeah, where's my flying car?
I had trouble getting on board with that.
Yeah, I mean...
context.
Look, it's a bit I kind of like, when I watched it and I saw the sort of aesthetic they were going through that initial few scenes where they kind of give you that quick dump of like, oh, what has happened? There's been a war. I was kind of getting a lot of the Animatrix. So did you ever watch the Animatrix? After the Matrix came out, there's this thing, the Animatrix, it filled in a lot of the backstory. It showed like, you know, the war between the machines and the humans and all this kind of stuff. And I was watching this and I'm like, this is kind of like a live action version of that Animatrix prequel kind of thing, which was explaining what had happened. And I was like, I'm getting strong vibes from that. And this combination of like technology and religion and, you know, some people working with them and some people working against them and, you know, who's doing all these kinds of things. And then, you know, as we got further along, I was just like, yeah, there's a few leaps in there. Like, have they just forgotten about some technological things that exist right now? Or is it just part of the aesthetic that they're going for? Because it feels a little bit, and I hate to use the Simon Stallenberg as an artist as a reference point because there are so many wonderful artists out there and creatives who've been doing stuff like this the whole time, but this is just the most visual one that you can remember. It's like, it's kind of like advanced technology, but still used in a very low technology way, which is, it's this combination of natural world and unnatural world that I love that juxtaposition, seeing it on film. Like, you know, they're setting it in Thailand and in Cambodia and in the Asiatic areas, but it's very high technology and everything's shiny and cool. And you're like, well, that's a great juxtaposition. I love that. Did it all need to be shot in that sort of world? Not really. And then when you moved it, you kind of went to places where it wasn't really like that. It was just like Hong Kong-ish style or like a harbor city. And then when you finally got out of it, you're like, oh, we're going to go to Tibetan things, because as everyone knows, the best place for enlightenment is a mountaintop monastery. And I'm like, oh, okay, right. You know,
talk about that later.
And how come you can get all that infrastructure just hidden? How do you
there are a lot of but whys that are coming a little bit later on.
Sure. Sure.
Which is a problem. That's the problem for me. You know, I've I've complained about the kind of war film aspect of the genre. When it comes to the sci-fi, there is so much about it that's like super cool and really exciting. And I agree, like I enjoy the aesthetic. But if I'm not like fully invested in the world already, I just keep thinking like, oh, we're still using like old, like fashioned wired payphones to make what?
Yeah.
What? Like, did the Boston Dynamics people like trap all of the other scientists somewhere, and now it's only robotics and warfare? Like, what is happening?
Yeah. And
you start finding little things that are inconsistent or don't make sense about the world, and really distracting.
And while that great big tank at the end is just like a fun visual to run, you just know that it's not going to work. Like that tank just cannot operate based on a lot of this stuff. And also, you know, how do you have such high technology things where you can have, you know, 65 targeted mini rocket things die immediately, but they can't aim straight? It's just like, yeah.
They're a lot about wise.
Or
They're
did
a lot
they?
about wise.
Or did they just? Or did they just forget that drones exist?
Look, in that world, maybe they don't.
Yeah.
They just didn't bother inventing a lot of things once they invented Android AI, I guess.
Sure.
They were like, Android AI, and now we're done with technology.
I had to admit, speaking of cast, because I know that we're going through this, well, I was very surprised, but actually pleasantly surprised to see Alison Janney turn up as a hard ass.
Oh, she was great.
Action person. And I was like, that is a casting I did not expect, but I am here for that.
Yeah, I enjoyed her a lot. But she wasn't the thing that made me angry while watching the film. But then it kind of plays into it. But no, she was terrific.
How do you go from West Wing to this?
Yeah.
You're doing everything wrong.
It's so that she was cool. I really enjoyed a lot of the cast. Like, I thought everyone on screen was doing a pretty good job. There was some,
they were giving
emotional
giving a good crack at it. I think they were giving it a very good crack at it, but I'm not sure that all the beats quite landed. Really. The suspension of disbelief was already pretty high, and then the way that, like, you kind of like, I don't why, like, too many but whys to make their decision making process. You kind of like, but at what point did you stop wanting to just kill this thing, and then suddenly you've decided that you're not going to wait? What the fuck is going on?
And why at one point are you just randomly white fanging it?
Yeah.
Like, go on.
Yeah, like
pebbles at it. What?
Yeah, what? Why? I don't. The decision-making process is wrong. The only things that I felt extreme sympathy for were the suicide trash cans, which we'll get to later on. They were the only robots in the whole thing that I was actually like, oh, poor robot.
I really like the design on them. Again, kind of like inconsistent with what else is happening in the world, but they were cool.
But yeah, it was kind of like, oh, okay, I see what's going on. Especially because they were just being ordered.
Yeah.
It's like, you shouldn't have to order it.
I'm like, it's a pleasure to see. No, see ya.
Yeah, I just have this thing is like, no, technically you shouldn't, like, can you imagine though, like, in terms of warfare, of a human having to order a bomb to drop? Like, and the bomb's like, yes, I'll do that now. And you're like, why would you even give it the option?
Yeah.
Why?
I really like how the design of them and the way they move really, like, brought into mind some of the terrifying dynamics videos that you see.
Yeah.
Like that was cool. And there were some clips in the archival prologue in the beginning that kind of tied all of those ideas in together as well. I was just like, when do these clips become HD? Well, they never become HD. Just what? SD is fine for this world.
Yeah, SD is fine. Yes, if you don't have HD at home, we have SD for you.
Yeah.
Right.
There were lots of little but whys, and I think when you're kind of looking at like a very high budget sci-fi / bordering on spec fiction, the one rule with sci-fi really is the world building and the consistency in the world building, and I just again, wheels a little bit fell off for me. With just the number of little things that I was like, it doesn't make sense in this world. That doesn't make sense either. And I'll but why them all later. I don't want to, do them all spoilery now.
No. Well, we're getting to that sort of point though, to the pointy end. We should actually rate it and then see a clip and then come back and talk about the spoileries because we've done it. But I mean, this has been advertised to be seen in IMAX. And maybe I should have gone and seen it in IMAX, considering that
it would be spectacular.
Yeah,
it would be spectacular in IMAX. It's a beautiful looking film.
I kind of feel
really is.
I kind of feel like now that locally Sydney has its IMAX, now I'm actually really picking which is the film I want to go and see in the new kind of IMAX theater to be like, ooh, which one do I want to see? And you know what? I'm going to be offered with the worst option. It's going to be like Joker 2 or something. Like that's going to be, and then by that stage, I'll just be so frustrated. Like, oh, fuck, fine. I'll just see it, whatever's there. Or maybe it'll be like Madam Web in IMAX. And yes, I did. Yes, I did totally miss my radar. I only remembered today that Madam Web is really a film and it's going to come out. Thanks.
And I'm probably not going to see it
Yeah, I
unless you
know.
guys make me for
I
the
totally-
purposes of but why.
I have no interest. I was like, what? It's actually okay, great.
I don't what it, I like. We get into that later.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
I don't even know what it is, but from your reaction, I'm thinking that I probably don't want to see it.
Yeah, based on like it's Spider-Man adjacent. So you remember how like Morbius was, you know, comic book movie adjacent?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, yes, of course, Karina, the design of Nomad and its all encompassing kind of terrifying presence and the way it operated, that was kind of good because you knew that it wasn't its own robot. It was just being controlled by humans, but it was terrifying because it just dropped shit on you. Like basically, as soon as you've been targeted, you're fucked. And it's always this ever present thing hanging in the sky, looking like a devil kind of eye sitting above you, and you can't do anything to stop it. I would have liked to see them try somehow and to see what the defense, like its defenses were, because its defense was it's just like, well, I'm too far up.
Well, I have questions about that later as well, because I got very confused at the end of the film about the physics of what was going on.
Yeah, at some points it's in space,
that.
and at other points it seems to be just about 100 Ks. Like what?
Yeah, but then it always kind of looks the same, and that's not how distance works. And then, like,
No.
yeah, I have actually quite a few questions.
Yeah. And is Nomad a base where people can go to and hang out? It kind of seems like there's officers on it, like not officers, but officers there. And, like, do you just fly up there to go to work? Like, how?
Yeah,
questions.
Yeah, lots of wheels fell off at the very end for me with Nomad because I was like literally just trying to figure out the physics of how it was doing what it was doing in that moment. And I'm not like, an astrophysicist, but it wasn't making sense to my understanding of how things work.
How did you feel about Alfie? Did you end up falling in like with the child savior of AI kind?
I mean, Alfie was sweet. Alfie was a sweet. I feel like they could have maybe done a little bit more. I feel like they could have given Alfie a little bit more in terms of, dialogue and agency. But, she was a sweet character. I mean, I've got a lot of issues with how things kind of like roll at the end there, which we can't talk about till spoiler section. But I thought the performance was excellent. There were some, really nice moments. Did you end up liking Alfie? You anti-Alfie?
I would say I'm in like with Alfie. Like, I gotta say, yeah, like there was. It felt to me like there was a lot of wasted opportunities across all of the different cast and their motivations. At some point, I was like, there's a pretty good idea for it, but at certain ways across it, I was just like, all of it seemed a little bit slippery. It all seems that their abilities to do things just varied according to what the narrative needed rather than what they could do. And that is a tricky balance to get, I think, as a filmmaker, especially when there's something written down and you've got to have a little journey about why people are doing things or why were they able to get through it. And this one was just, I was like, oh, cool. They just do that now. Great.
I mean, it also suffers from the problem of fridging, essentially, and having a main protagonist whose only goal is to chase down the woman who actually, like, she deliberately left because he had horrifically lied to
Yeah.
for a very long time, and maybe she didn't want to see him. But that like kind of single focus of, well, I don't care what's going on, no matter what is happening, how am I going to get to this, woman who I think that, I owes me some time or something. It does kind of suffer from, unfortunately, setting up a very tropey motivation for the key protagonist. Which, again, I have a lot to say about that later, but I just don't feel like I can get into it without spoiling it. The thing is, this film has been very, very highly reviewed by others, so I'm not going to tell anyone not to go out and watch it, but I am going to be honest about my enjoyment levels watching the film, which were not necessarily high.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll wait for that. Well, okay, you've got to give us the rating now. Sorry, I keep forgetting without other people here to help. Factor, usually you're the one who factors me into this. What are we doing? Am I doing it first? I go for a rating.
You do it first. You go first.
Yeah, and don't forget in the chat too to give us your ratings now. If you've seen The Creator, if you'd recommend it. Don't get confused like I did. I didn't see Tyler, the Creator. I just saw The Creator, and the Wikipedia pages are definitely different. That's all I'm going to say. Look, I think it's visually it's such a nice idea. There's some really great moments in it. I love a good tech and a well executed tech story, and I love a near-fi, something that could potentially work. Like, I love that all of them are still shooting like old AK-47s that they're modded up and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. It's one of the things I liked about Elysium. There's massive tech, but also sometimes you have to take what is available and add stuff to it, and that I got that feeling in this. And the only thing that got me a little bit was there seemed to be too much lo-fi nature work and like combined with too much high technology for weird reasons. Like, I just couldn't get myself past the high-tech AI monastery. Like, I'm like, when are they building this shit? Like, what's building that? Who's building these things? And why are you making it look like a weird science fiction version of something? I feel like if they'd used AI to do it. So look, it's a worthwhile story. It's interesting based on the fact that we have all of this AI stuff now, which isn't really AI. It's just large learning massive. So what's the actual acronym? Large learning models, golems, punching out AI art and AI scripts, which is just regurgitating. It's not true AI. But it could be an interesting, thing to think of for the future. So I am going to give it a solid 80 based on its visuals and fun that you have with it. But it lost all of its marks because it didn't really connect in the way that I think it hoped for. Still solid though, because it's good. It's like, ooh, lots of explosions. That looks cool. That person's the evil one. This is the person's the good one, like that kind of thing.
I agree. The visuals are amazing.
Yeah.
The visuals are fantastic. The design is fantastic, if not slightly nonsensical, but still cool to look at. The what it is saying, what it's trying to say about a lot of things. Like, I think it's definitely trying to carry a worthwhile message. So I'm kind of giving it points for that.
Yep.
But for me, I accidentally watched a war film when I don't like to watch war films, and it was one that I really did feel like was quite deliberately designed on images of real kind of human atrocity, which just felt so weird for me in the context of, let's make a fun, entertaining sci-fi film.
Yeah.
It was tropey as fuck, I have to say. Like, I haven't gone through all of it, but like, there were so many times where I was like, fucking seriously? That is what is happening now. It's don't think it passes the Bechdel test, because it does, if you count 2 AI female characters as it just scrapes through on the Bechdel test in one scene.
But they fridged the woman.
but it starts, the whole thing is built on a fridging, and that, like, it loses a lot of points for that, because fuck me, find better motivations for people to do things, seriously. Particularly, like, find a motivation for a man that's not chase down the woman who actually left me on purpose because I fucking lied to her.
And the terrifying idea that
hard to get on board with for me,
the
frankly.
terrifying idea that you can just recall about 2 minutes worth of someone after they've been dead for a while is like, I don't enjoy that. Especially if they have like a mobile unit. Ugh. I did like it. I woke up, I was like, oh, tell my wife I love her. It's like, no, what? Yeah.
But ultimately, adding all of those things up, I was more angry than I was amazed in this film. So I'm going to give it a pretty low score for me. I'm going to give it 58. And I'm going to detail some of the reasons why after the clip.
Sure, maybe I enjoyed it a lot more than everyone else. Okay, fine, fair enough.
Oh, no. It's I think that I'm an outlier. The film has been very, very highly rated by other reviewers.
I mean, there was a good point.
I just got a bit pissy at it, so I'm giving it a low rating.
There's a good point Karina made just earlier. Apparently, it was made for $80 million budget, so it's a pretty good result that you're getting out of that. Maybe that's why it was all in standard definition.
Yeah.
It hid all of the low poly models on the stuff there. All right, let's go to a little clip, and I want to go to the one where we see a lot of action after the tank is coming for the child. Why not? Which is not a metaphor for anything else that's happening right now.
They've come for me. I have to help.
There's nothing we can do.
I have to help.
Alfie, we gotta go. Alfie! Alfie!
Look, come on. If you can't have a monkey setting a bomb off in your movie, you're in the wrong place. And Gareht Edwards does do a good action sequence.
That was great, but so confusing. Was that monkey trained specifically to do that? Was it an AI monkey? What is going on?
I like to believe both of those things. I like to believe that it was actually like the robot that set the charge was actually being controlled by the monkey. And the monkey was actually the robot AI thing. It's like, haha, you think you've got me, but you didn't, because I'm the monkey. Kaboom. Which, like some good fun ideas in there for sort of bits and like of the bits and bobs. But, man, I don't know. Tell me your problems, Pete.
It is impressive for the budget level. Visually and otherwise. At first, I really just need to talk about the criminal misuse of Gemma Chan. If anybody would like to see Gemma Chan in an excellent AI android rights story, they should go and watch the series Humans. In which she is terrific and actually visits like pretty much all of the same themes in terms of what is human and what parts of humanity are worth protecting, as this film does. But it does it as a British series that is, quite a good sci-fi for a much lower budget than this.
I just realised that I haven't seen that. So that is something that I'm going to have to go and do.
Go and check out Humans. Like it's not quite as explosion-y as this. It's much
Oh, what is
slower
there a
pace.
monkey that blows something up? Please tell me
There
there's
are
a
no
monkey.
monkeys
Oh,
blowing things up.
oh.
It is more of kind of like a human story than
So
a full blown war story that this one is.
It's a think piece. Ugh.
I mean, the fact that I could tell a good 5 minutes before it even happened that she was going to get fridged.
Yeah. Oh, that was
goes to show how deeply by the book tropey this particular fridging was. Like deeply, deeply by the book. And that annoyed me to begin with because I was like, well, she's obviously going to die immediately, which makes me sad because I like her and wanted to see more of her. But she really kind of features in the trailer, so you kind of think you're going to see more of her, which is a bit of an error. Yeah. The fact that after the fridging act, there were immediate flashbacks of the perfect wife in the pure white dress being happy on the beach with her pregnancy, like immediate flashbacks.
I knew that was going to shit you. Like, it was one of those things. I'm like, Pete's going to hate this part specifically. And yes, you did. That was the texting that you're like, Jesus, angelic white dress. No. It's like, okay.
Just the tropiest possible way to fridge someone.
Yeah.
And those kind of continue, and then like the Claire de Lune comes in, and it kind of like, oh, guys, come on, let's
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you're gonna put up like if you're gonna like do a car race, you might as well have all the flashy cars in there, all those things you're expecting to see.
And the other thing is it's kind of an obvious misdirect as well. Because clearly, and we are like deep in. Are we in spoilers?
Yeah, we should be. I think
a lot of people in chat have seen it.
Yeah, I put the spoilers up. So consider yourself warned. I mean, once you've seen the monkey blow something up.
Watching this movie is really more about the visuals than anything. I don't think it really matters if people get spoiled anyway. But some people don't like being spoiled, so be warned, it's happening. Given that a lot of the movie is based on us questioning or being on board with the main protagonist questioning whether she is actually dead, the fridging event was also a very annoyingly obvious misdirect as well. In that, like, she just looks at him just so calmly, and you're like, oh, well, she obviously doesn't think that she's about to die. Maybe she knows something else. Which you then expect to be explained later, and it's not. And that kind of, shit me a bit. And then you kind of get into this trap of you've got this character who is searching for a person who, if she is alive, most certainly doesn't want to be found by him, or probably would have made herself known to him in the past 5 years. And yet he somehow feels that he has some kind of right to go off finding her and endangering her in doing so, knowing like the nature of the people that he works with. So that to me just kind of seems shitty, to be perfectly frank. So really, really hard to get on board with the main mission. And then it kind of becomes this weird, like, protect the child, but he, like, for most of the time, he doesn't really care about protecting the child. He only cares about using the child to get to the wife. And then, like, at some point towards the end, he realizes that he needs to protect the child. But the entire thing is just this kind of like, fairy tale mission to go and like save this woman who never asked to be saved. And where does he find her? Where does he find her, Dion? Where does he find her? Asleep in a fucking tower.
Was that
in a tower? He goes to rescue her asleep in a tower.
Was that a metaphor somewhere? I can't quite see where the metaphor is coming from.
I mean, I know it's Disney, but fuck me. Like, you don't need to do it for every single female character.
It would only have been worse if there were like 7 robot monks who were the attendants, and they're all shorter than a lot of other people. And you would have been like, what?
Yeah. So having your kind of, having one of your main female characters kind of really only exist in flashbacks for the film was an irrit for me. The tropiness of the fridging and entire plot that was based on it was an error for me. And because I was irritated by those things, everything else started to fall apart. I started asking all of these questions that I wasn't supposed to be asking,
Nope.
like if we know, for example, that we do have a technology where you can essentially download somebody's brain scan after they have died and, plug it into very human-like AI android, and we find our wife still alive but in a coma and has been like that for 5 years, do we immediately say, time to die? Or do we say, maybe we can get one of those brain plug things?
Exactly.
Like, if he obviously knows the technology exists, like,
Sure.
but no, time to die. Like, we're done.
Yeah. Just time to die. And we're not talking like what was the Netflix series about the altered carbon, which was about, that was about, hey, making sure you got a backup of your memory so you can just be downloaded into a new body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which obviously they have the technology to do in this world. And like, she would have been very happy in an android body because they're kind of her people.
Yeah.
So those kind of things, I was like, oh no, what? Okay. That's obviously serving the plot right now and not actually like, serving anything else.
There's some scuttlebutt in the chat about it there being a lot more that was cut out of the movie, and hopefully we could see a director's cut, until I just got reminded that, wait, there can't really be a director's cut unless they release it that way, because Disney doesn't make any more physical media.
Yeah.
So we don't get
I mean,
those
they could
things.
release a director's cut on streaming.
Yeah, I know, but it's not the same. Do you remember?
I know.
Do you remember the good old days of Blu-ray and DVD where you'd buy a copy of the movie and then suddenly it would come with all of these extras, and then it was just people got weighed down by the fact they got too focused on bloated bullshit in movies that we didn't actually care about. And now it's gone back the other way. Like, fine, you're not getting anything. It's like, oh, okay. In fact, we're going to have this movie on streaming for 2 months, and then we're going to just put it in an archive because it makes better sense for a producerial offset.
Maybe the director's cut would explain why she was in a coma, because I could have used that information. Because the way they explained it kind of made it seem like she just kind of had made herself after she lost her baby.
But Big Boom made her go sleepy time.
No, that's not what big booms do, though. Big booms don't make human bodies go sleepy time. Big booms make human bodies go, oh, Bernie, death.
Yeah, but maybe one of the robots was shielding around her, so she didn't get Bernie death. She just got, Big Boom.
The way it was explained was after she lost the baby, she went into a coma, and she's been like that ever since. It definitely sounded like she made herself into a coma.
Sure.
I'm just saying it could have been explained better. And that's the thing, you had that obviously misdirect at the beginning where you're supposed to question whether she's still alive, but then they don't explain how she's still alive. They're like, what?
I take umbrage to the phrase Padmade herself. But I can't deny that it's accurate.
Is that not what Padme did? Oh, no, I'm just going to die now. Oh, I'm so sad.
We can't explain it. She seems to have lost the will to live. Oh, convenient.
So being so pissed off with all of that kind of thing, every time there was something kind of like that just kind of little bit didn't make sense, my suspension of disbelief was gone. Like, I was not suspending any disbelief for anything at that stage, basically. And that is a bad way to watch sci-fi films, essentially. You got to have a little bit of suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, but I mean, I was suspended from the very outset of this. Like, AI would never turn against humans. We're so nice.
Thing is, they didn't. Little bit of like plot that you might have missed at the end. The AIs didn't do anything. It was a human coding error in the first place.
Well, I didn't miss that. Like, I mean, I saw that. It's like, oh, they just couldn't admit their own, chutzpah. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. We found a scapegoat. It wasn't us. It was the AI. They're the problem. But I did like the fact that they explained that with having, but there are some countries that have fully embraced it and they're all down for AI things and they're trying to integrate them. Like, that's nice.
And now the US is raining fire on them.
Yeah, well, they tried. But,
Okay, explain,
yes.
What is it, Nomad?
Yes.
Because so there are so many questions about the end. For a start,
the
why
North American
does Alfie...
Orbital Mobile Aerospace Defense System.
First question, why does Alfie need to go and sit in a hologram in order to get the EMT powers kind of working across Nomad?
Because Nomad
I know it was the control room, but why is the control room just a hologram of the planet?
Because Nomad is absolutely air gapped
But,
from everything.
but
That's why it's up in
Nomad the whole time. Like she was in there.
Maybe
But
it
for
came
some
down.
reason, she had to go and sit in a hologram.
Maybe it came down and she had to like touch the control section. Maybe that's how it. Maybe it's all actually really low-fi.
But was that the control section? Why would what?
I don't
There were
understand.
no controls in there. It was just a room with a giant globe hologram on it.
Yeah.
Wheels really falling off by this stage.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of really was a bit disappointed when I got there and I saw that there were actually like bombs. It could have been a much more interesting thing to just have like, what is Nomad when it deploys something? Well, it's basically just like a giant depleted uranium, like solid mass that it sends from space, and it accelerates so fast that it is like dropping a nuclear bomb, but it doesn't have the radiation. Like that would have been interesting.
That would have been interesting.
And also, if Nomad was also an AI.
But my other question is, where is Nomad?
Yeah, well, it's whatever height it needs to be to make the plot move forward.
For the plot.
Yeah.
Because that didn't work at all. Like it's over the west coast of the United States, but it's also kind of in the stratosphere. But it also is very kind of visible from like just standing on a beach. But it also can like run its lasers over like cities in Asia when it was just on the west coast of the United States. And then when it like crash lands, it's just kind of like the size of a jet plane. So
yeah, okay. Karina did point out that like she was too young, so Alfie hasn't grown, because remember, technically that was explained by Ken Watanabe, which was like she can grow and it was like wasn't really.
Oh no,
explained.
I understand that. I understand that she needed to be inside Nomad. She was inside Nomad for quite a bit of the run that she did get to the global hologram.
I feel like she could have just spent like all of her skill points in upgrading her Wi-Fi router. As she was going through this learning sort of section, she could have just like pour all your points into your Wi-Fi distance, and then you just be able like, boom, easy.
And let's like talk about Alfie's powers. Like, what are they? Because sometimes she's like got just she can control things, and other times like suicidal robots are like bowing down to her.
Yeah.
Like what? Like what is she like? Is she the god now?
Do you remember that movie Hackers?
Yes.
That's when Alfie closes her eyes and puts her hands together, she goes into that state exactly like that movie Hackers, and she's just in the system. She's in the net. She's hacking the mainframe. And that's why everyone stops, and like all the robots stop and like look at the visual inside of basically they're all just going to a catatonic state of watching Hackers. That's how I think of it.
And then like whatever they're typing is like somehow like projected onto their face, like because that's how screens work.
Yeah. Okay, it's more like that movie Swordfish. You remember when Hugh Jackman?
Oh my god! I do remember that movie.
Yeah.
Why did I
was doing a lot of hacking on that laptop under stress? That's exactly what Alfie was doing.
Here's another question.
Yeah.
Is it really that much better to destroy a giant space station full of nukes in the vague airspace of the place you're trying to protect than it is just to let the missiles hit? Because like at least like the missiles were aimed, like just bits of Nomad and all of the nukes inside just like raining down fire on wherever. It was probably also a bad idea.
If there's something that we've learned from Cold War era accidents in nuclear submarines, is that there's no possible way that nukes are going to be any detriment if they just fall into the ocean. They'll be fine. Be totally normal.
What about that entire scene where like we obviously like the bomb was obviously dirty, so they had to like have their suits on when he was going out to look for the ring until he just didn't. Yeah. Like just no more suit.
That one
actually it's fine to be here now.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things I really liked about it in that sort of sense. Is like he has a job and walking around making sure, like going, well, that looks like a dead robot, but then robots don't actually die. Shit. Like, I did like that. That was really interesting and actually quite good at panicking humans and making people go, "Oh shit, that's like playing on my sensibilities." But it didn't do anything evil. That was the thing. The robot wasn't trying to kill anyone. The robot was just like, "Oh my god, help me!" Like, I'm trapped
Yeah.
here. I've been here for ages. Help me. And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe you should help that robot and not just shoot it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's like, and those kinds of points that it was making about, you know, how we, I guess, view the other, they were all decent points. I was just like, after the first fridging, I was just out.
Just
I wasn't experiencing it the way I should have been experiencing it.
let's look. It's a fair cop. It's a fair cop. I mean, I still enjoyed the creator. I want to see the creator 2? No. Was it a weird remake of that other movie, The Creator? Oh no, that was The Master. The Master, The Creator. What do we get next? The Holy Ghost.
Gonna be one for Jill.
Yes. An AI ghost. Wait, we've had that movie somewhere, haven't we? Yeah, weird combination. I feel like I want to put them all into the same sort of like boat now, which is the Animatrix, and someone mentioned iRobot earlier as a good example, and even AI, artificial intelligence, but that doesn't have any war in it, so that's boring. And then you've got like Elysium and Chappie. You know, cool. Yeah, have you ever seen Chappie?
I've never seen Chappie.
Yeah, Neil Blomkamp, one South African production. A little bit problematic these days because of Deantwood. You can go look that up yourself if you wonder what that's all about. But yeah, Chappie was a good kind of even. What was the other Neil Blomkamp one? The Alien. District 9. That's right. Sorry, I get there eventually. All of those design aspects were really cool, and I feel like it all kind of matched together. Like this could all happen in the same universe.
Oh, for sure. And you know, most of those things like do what sci-fi does really well, which is kind of asking these questions about, you know, humanity and who we are and
the only really
what it means to be human. Like sci-fis that ask that question are generally lovely.
The only real interesting consideration that I put in there was that thing that's currently happening, which is, you know, there's a big problem with movie studios. Part of the reason that everyone's striking is because they're like, hey, we're going to scan your likeness and use it in the future. And in this one, they're just putting it out there going, donate your face, donate your likeness, give it to an AI. And that was really well explained in that, was that the police robot that came out, like the police robot that died. And then later he comes back again and you're like, oh, it must be his. Oh, no, that's just the same face. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. They're just reusing, because of course they wouldn't have singular faces. They would just repurpose stuff because they can.
Because they can. And these were all like the little details that were kind of cool, but a little bit annoying that they were unexplained. Because, why can't you just like make a face that's not the same as someone else's face if you have the technology to make a face at all?
Exactly.
That like it was like a cool detail, but also another one that I was like, but why?
Yes, but it's not like...
But why not just make other face?
Yes, and why can't they just generate their own ones? I mean, especially considering Alfie's face was based on the interpretation of what their child would have looked like.
Yes, or like I think that there was DNA involved, which like...
sure.
Again, not really explained. And also, how is Alfie growing? Like...
We don't need to worry about
like,
that.
where are the metal components like that make up Alfie like...
The greatest scene in the whole film was at the end where Alfie was very sad because she just lost her faux dad and mother, and then realized that she was the savior of AI kind. So I just started smiling and going, great, I've accepted my role now as the savior.
Oh my God, I did not touch on the running through the field trope. Like at that stage, I was like, they are doing this on fucking purpose, but I don't understand why.
Yeah, I mean, there was some really good bits in there. Like speaking of running, I remember the scene where the robot was targeted and he was trying to get away, and then realized that he was going to run through like a building full of children, and just stopped and just kind of went, "It's okay, just stay over there because I'm fucked now and I don't want to kill you," which was like nice, Robot sacrifices self to preserve younger life, and I liked some of those other throwaway scenes that they put out, like the old grandmother robot, and human children growing up with robots in their lives perpetually, so they form connection to them. And so there was that really interesting sort of stuff going on with it, but I think it was just not enough focus on it, or not enough as a part of the intrinsic story to make it a very complicated film. It was more like, oh yeah, we have thought about this, but we got to go back to the Bonds now.
Yeah, like the world building was cool. It's kind of like you want to spend time in the world and have the world explained to you a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's kind of just more about the children screaming and
the screaming and the bombs and the destruction and all that sort of stuff. Oh, well, that's it for The Creator. Go and see it. If you can see it on IMAX, go see it on IMAX. It could be just a great visual spectacular. Pete, have you made your decisions about what you're watching for next week?
Next week,
what are your spooky movies?
I am taking Jill's advice and watching Totally Killer, which is on Amazon Prime.
Totally excellent. We will have to put up the list. I remember we haven't done that yet, which we promised we would put up the stuff about what we're watching, so that people could at least do it instead of just coming in for our spookootery cheese board of movies and stuff that we've been doing. But yeah, this is really the whole thing. I don't know if I'm going to bother getting dressed up. Oh wait, hang on. Is it next? It is next Tuesday. It is actually Halloween. I think we must get dressed up. So I'm going to put that one down. And no one here, half of us, I'm voting for yes. So Peter, if you don't vote for yes, I'm going to vote by proxy for Jill and Quinny. So it's 3 versus 1. We're all getting dressed up. Or are you going to vote for it as well?
I literally have a whole pile of sewing next to me because I'm doing pint-sized cosplay essentially for my nephew, who wants to be Captain Barnacle for Halloween. And you can't buy Captain Barnacle costumes. So sewing is happening in my house.
Is there an actual Captain Barnacle? Which super soldier program did he come from?
He is the leader of the Octonauts, if you must know.
Oh, the leader. You're not helping. You've dug down. Sorry. You've said words and I'm like, what? What's this from?
Octonauts. If you know little people, you need to know more little people to know Octonauts. It's quite a nice educational kids show that tells you a lot about animals and nature and stuff.
Great.
Yeah.
Captain Barnacle. Well, I mean, I think everyone wants to see pictures of Captain Barnacle now. If you can take one that is de-anonymized, so that the AI doesn't take.
I'll see how I go. Given I'm actually not a cosplayer, my costume making abilities are average. So we'll see how we go.
Can't go any better or worse than my terrible Lion-O from last year. Amazing. All right, thanks everyone in the chat. Hope you enjoyed The Creator, or the chat about The Creator, and don't forget we'll come back next week for the Halloween edition. It will be a Halloweeny. That's a good excuse next week to have chocolate for dinner. You're all allowed to.
Well, I'm going to have some chocolate now, actually.
Oh, don't rub it in. Thank you, everyone. We're going to go now. Bye.